His voice was loud, and his footsteps echoed down the long, empty hall. I thought I knew what was coming, but I had no idea how that night would change my life forever. I squeezed my eyes shut, hoping he would pass my room. But he didn't. My name is Efua. I'm 12 years old, and I live in Kumasi, Ghana, in a big house with tall gates and shiny floors. From the outside, it looks like a dream, but inside, it feels like a cage. My mother, Yaya, is a beautiful woman, always dressed in bright, colorful clothes with gold jewelry that sparkles in the sun. She's rich and runs her own business, selling fabrics and jewelry all over Ghana. She inherited most of her money from my father, who passed away when I was little. I don't remember much about him, just that he used to sing to me at night. For a long time, it was just me and my mother. She traveled a lot for her business, but when she was home, she made sure we had fun. We would cook together, swim in the pool, and she'd tell me stories about my father. I loved those moments, but they didn't last long. She was always busy, always on the phone, always packing her bags for the next trip. Then Kofi came into our lives. Kofi was younger than my mother, tall with smooth skin and a smile that made people trust him. He was funny and always knew how to make my mother laugh. The first time I met him, he brought me a big box of chocolates and a new doll. My mother's eyes sparkled when she looked at him, and for the first time in years, I saw her truly happy. When she told me they were getting married, I tried to be happy for her. I wanted to believe he would make our family complete. At first, everything seemed fine. Kofi moved in, and he brought gifts for both of us. He bought me new dresses, toys, and even helped me with my homework. My mother was overjoyed. Efua, isn't Kofi wonderful? He's going to take care of us, she would say, her eyes shining with excitement. But Kofi changed when my mother wasn't around. When she left for her business trips, he became a different person. His smile disappeared, and his voice grew cold. He would shout at me for small things, like forgetting to greet him properly or not sitting straight at the table. If I tried to speak up, he would glare at me, his eyes dark and full of anger. One night, my mother was away in Accra for a business meeting. I was in my room, laying on my bed, when I heard his footsteps coming down the hall. My heart started pounding. The door opened slowly, and he came in. I kept quiet and pulled the blanket as I was sleeping, and the next thing, I felt Kofi's hands touching my legs. I woke up quickly and tried to escape, but he held me back with force on the bed and tore my underwear. "Let's see if you taste better than your mother," he said. I thought he came to shout at me or beat me as usual, but that night was the worst night. He abused me. When he finally left, I locked the door, my heart pounding in my chest. I wanted to call my mother, but I was too scared. What if she didn't believe me? The next morning, I tried to tell her. "Mama, Kofi is not nice to me when you're away," I whispered while we sat by the pool. She laughed, brushing my hair back from my face. "Oh, Efua, you're just not used to having a father figure around. Kofi loves you, and he's trying his best." Her words stung more than Kofi's grip. I felt invisible, like my words didn't matter. As time went on, things got worse. I became Kofi's toy that he used to play whenever my mother is not around. Kofi abused me again and again, but I couldn't tell my mother because every time I tried to do so she never let me finish, and she always say, "Kofi is a nice person, he is taking good care of us." My mother, who was so caring, has changed because of love. She couldn't even notice that I was scared and traumatized. Kofi started controlling everything I did, when I could watch TV, when I could go outside, even when I could talk to my friends. I felt trapped in my own home. One evening, after dinner, Kofi called me into the living room. My heart sank. I could tell by the look on his face that something was wrong. "Efua, you didn't wash the dishes properly," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "I'm sorry. I'll do it again," I said quickly, hoping to calm him down. But it was too late. He grabbed a plate from the sink and smashed it on the floor. "You're useless," he shouted. I tried to run, but he caught my arm and dragged me back. I was crying, begging him to stop, but he didn't listen. That night, I locked myself in my room and cried until I couldn't cry anymore. I tried to tell my mother again. I begged her to believe me, but she didn't. "Efua, stop making up stories," she said firmly one day. "Kofi has done nothing but care for us. You're just being difficult." I couldn't understand why she wouldn't believe me. Maybe it was because she loved him too much, or maybe she didn't want to see the truth. Whatever the reason, I felt more alone than ever. One day, my Auntie Ama came to visit. She was my mother's older sister, a strong woman with sharp eyes that saw everything. She noticed how quiet I had become and how I flinched whenever Kofi entered the room. That evening, while Kofi and my mother were in the garden, Auntie Ama pulled me aside. "Efua, what's going on? You're not yourself," she said gently, her hand resting on my shoulder. I shook my head, too scared to speak. But she didn't give up. "You can tell me, Efua. Whatever it is, I will believe you." Her words opened the floodgates. I burst into tears, the words spilling out like a river. I told her everything about Kofi's anger, his harsh words, the things he used to do to me, and how scared I felt when my mother was away. Auntie Ama's face grew dark with anger. She didn't wait. That very night, she packed my things and took me to her home across the city. When my mother found out, she was furious. She came to Auntie Ama's house, demanding to know why I had been taken away. "Why are you doing this, Ama? Efua is my daughter," she shouted. But Auntie Ama stood firm. "Your daughter is scared, Yaya. She's been trying to tell you, but you refuse to listen. You need to open your eyes." At first, my mother didn't want to believe it. She argued, saying I was just struggling to adjust to having a new father figure. But when she saw the fear in my eyes and heard the truth in my voice, something changed. She left Kofi and came to live with us at Auntie Ama's house for a while. Later she divorced Kofi and we returned to our home. It wasn't easy. My mother blamed herself for not seeing the signs, and I had a lot of healing to do. There were nights when I would wake up from nightmares, my heart pounding, and my mother would sit with me, holding my hand, whispering that everything would be alright. Slowly, we found peace again. We learned to smile, to laugh, and to rebuild the trust that had been broken. We spent more time together, going on walks in the park, cooking meals, and even traveling to the countryside to escape the memories of our old life. My mother made sure I felt safe, and I began to believe in happiness again. She started working less, focusing more on being present in my life. We redecorated my room together, painting the walls a bright yellow and filling it with new books and drawings. It became my safe space, a place where I could finally breathe. Even now, as I tell this story, I feel the weight of those dark days. But I also feel the strength it took to speak out. I learned that no matter how hard it is, telling the truth is the first step toward finding freedom.